Are you ready to explore the extravagant side of hip hop? Because today we are going to be counting down the 10 most expensive rap albums ever made. From multi-platinum artists pushing the boundaries of creativity to high-profile collaborations that demand top-dollar budgets, these albums showcase the incredible or detrimental investments made in bringing hip-hop's most ambitious visions to life. Get ready to be blown away as we unveil the price tags and stories behind the most expensive rap albums ever made in the genre's history. Before we can look at these bank-breaking records, we need to talk about what got these respective albums on this list in the first place. From jaw-dropping studio rentals, top-tier producers, sample clearance fees, superstar features, writers, marketing, and other hidden costs. These are the factors that make an album's budget and that have contributed to the eye-watering price tags that you are about to see. With this out of the way, let's waste no more time and let's get right into the list.
Here comes the money!
Here we go.
Kicking off our list at number 10 is the Carta 3 by Lil Wayne with an estimated budget of $2.5 million. In retrospect, the Carta 3 pushed the boundaries of not just hip-hop but music as a whole, and the record would go on to change pop culture, with peak Lil Wayne being a whole different breed of a rapper, being such an infectious personality. But the reason why the Carta 3 cost so much money to make is that on top of the high-profile features and producers like Jay-Z, Kanye West, T-Pain, Fabulous, and Robin Thicke, the original version of the album was leaked, which forced Wayne to re-record a good portion of the project. Now, historically, when albums have gotten leaked throughout hip-hop history, the cost of re-recording sessions leave us with a much inferior product, but despite having to pour a lot more money into making entirely new songs and an entirely new record with a new identity, the Carta 3 was the opposite of this, as Wayne's meticulous attention to detail ended up giving us a better project than we could have imagined, and the Carta 3 to this day is Lil Wayne's career-defining statement. Now, considering that this budget gave us both the Carta 3 as we know it today and its original leaked tracks with the now iconic Leak EP, the budget and the trouble poured into this project was definitely worth it. Next up, we have Watch the Throne by Jay-Z and Kanye West, which is estimated to have cost $3 million to make. Now, this collaboration between two hip-hop moguls aimed for nothing short of greatness. The grandiose production, the luxurious soundscapes, and star-studded guest appearances undoubtedly contributed to the album's high price tag. Considering all of the production styles that were infused into this record ranged from gospel to dubstep, and that the samples on this project included everything from getting Otis Redding's amazing vocals to getting DreamWorks to clear a sample from the iconic Will Ferrell vocal clip from Blades of Glory, it's really no surprise that Watch the Throne is on this list, and at least going back to the album year after year, you can hear that the soundscape really does reflect the expensive budget that was put into it. Moving on to the number 8 spot, we got My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West, which is estimated to have cost a little over $3 million. With Kanye West being known for his genius artistic visions and perfectionism, and with this album being seen as his peak in the eyes of the people, it makes absolute sense how Kanye spared no expense in creating this cultural masterpiece, and it's not surprising to see it on the list at all. There are so many samples on this record, and beyond the production and beyond the tons of cover art that was designed and released for this project, this album had the biggest recording process of all time. I mean, you can see the list right in front of you. Jay-Z, Drake, J. Cole, Pusha T, Rick Ross, Rihanna, RZA, Nicki Minaj, Mos Def, Kobe Bryant, Chris Rock. You can find stories online of Kanye bringing in pizza delivery guys to listen into this project and to help contribute and to bounce off ideas of West. That's how involved and that's how massive this recording process was. So just from this huge list, you can see all that went into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and beyond the album we got, there was so much music that was made on this budget, from the Good Friday singles, which were a ton of memorable Kanye West singles that he released featuring Justin Bieber, Jay-Z, and a ton of other artists, to different versions of songs on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like Drake's version of All of the Lights. There were so many different tracks recorded within this budget that it doesn't just make for one of the most successful albums of all time to this day, it makes for one of the most important moments in music of all time. At number 7, we got Drake's Views with an estimated budget of $3.2 million. Now, Views showcased Drake stepping into a full-on R&B and dancehall sound, and it did dominate the charts with massive hits like One Dance and Too Good, so it definitely made this investment back. But out of all of the Drake records, it makes sense that this one cost the most out of all of his projects. On top of Apple Music owning the exclusive rights to it at first, Views took over 2 years to make, with the record having a ton of different iterations. The project featured a ton of different talent working on it across the board, from producers, features, ghostwriters, and again, as Drake expanded into a more melodic territory and a more foreign territory, there was a way bigger talent pool writing and doing reference tracks for this album. So because of the massive creative process that Drake had for Views, it makes absolute sense that this was his most costly record and one of the most costly of all time. Right outside of the top 5, we have Eminem's The Marshall Mathers LP2 with an estimated cost of $4 million. Now, as one of the most popular rappers of all time in Eminem, coming off one of the most commercially successful projects of his career with 2010's Recovery, Eminem spared no expense crafting one of his most ambitious albums yet. What made the Marshall Mathers LP2 cost so much, but also be very successful in the long run, was because of how they went about crafting the record's hit songs. Look at these 3 tracks: The Monster, Berserk, and of course, Rap God. What do these tracks all have in common besides being hits? They all had massive music videos that were synonymous with the tracks, and they went viral because of the production value put into them. The elaborate way that the Marshall Mathers LP2 approached the art of music videos was one of the biggest pieces of its budget's pie, but it made the record so memorable, giving each track a distinct visual texture which people were talking about and sharing for years to come. Now, while there are stars scattered throughout the Marshall Mathers LP2 feature list, it does not seem like it would cost this much based off the record's musical qualities alone, but when you look at what goes into crafting hit songs and viral moments, and most of all the music videos, you can see why it cost this much. Coming in at number 5, we got Jay-Z's Magna Carta Holy Grail, which cost a whopping $5 million to make. Now, Magna Carta Holy Grail was Jay-Z's most lavish and opulent sounding project, and hell, that's reflected in the cover art alone. The features on this project are ambitious, with superstars like Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, Frank Ocean, Nas, and Travis Scott on this thing, but the production and writers on this album made up a massive part of the budget. Just to see what I mean, there are over 60 contributors who have credits on this thing, ranging from producers like Swizz Beatz, Mike Dean, Pharrell Williams, The Dream, Kanye West, Rick Rubin, Timbaland, Hit-Boy, and more. I mean, the list really does go on. You can really find any producer or just anybody involved in the music industry on the contribution list. I mean, literally, Ebro has a credit on this record. The more you explore the writing credits on this album, you will see how many royalties had to be paid out, with names like Biggie Smalls and Q-Tip being credited for being writers. While Magna Carta is not considered one of Jay-Z's best albums, it is one of his biggest in terms of just the sheer scale that it took to put together, but at least that is reflected in the sound, and that definitely means something. Cracking the top 4, we have Kanye West's The Life of Pablo, which was estimated to cost a little over $5 million. Similar to Views, The Life of Pablo was getting all sorts of money thrown at it to be a streaming exclusive on Tidal, and aside from the usual Kanye West creative process that made My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy cost millions with the crazy amount of features, producers, and writers, The Life of Pablo had one of the most extensive marketing campaigns in the modern modern music era. The main event to promote this album was literally a listening event at Madison Square Garden. That is a whole new level of eventizing an album's release. Beyond that, The Life of Pablo also went through many iterations, evolving from its original project name TurboGrafx 16, then being a new album called Waves, which then became The Life of Pablo that dropped in 2016, which was finally updated into the version that we know it as today. So, for the marketing of this project and for it being literally the first album to get DLC and updates after its release, it makes sense why The Life of Pablo cost so much money to make. Cracking the top 3, we got Travis Scott's AstroWorld, which takes us into way higher territory with a budget of, wait for it, $8 million. Now, AstroWorld's immersive and cinematic sound definitely demanded significant financial resources to create an unforgettable and one-of-a-kind musical journey. I mean, from the elaborate production on this project, which took you into another world, to the extensive list of A-list features, AstroWorld aimed to transport listeners into another realm, and it did that very well, but oh my god. This album was expensive to make, and the real question we gotta ask is, why did it cost this much? There has to be more reasoning beyond the surface, and there is. The first thing to understand is that AstroWorld was always sold to labels as Travis Scott's career-defining statement. It was pitched as a record that would define a generation, and even while Rodeo and especially Birds in the Trap were being made, AstroWorld was always being planned out by Travis Scott's team and label execs, and this was really a project that had so much thought put into it. AstroWorld was always the leading point into Travis Scott's career. When it comes to AstroWorld's creation, it had a Kanye West-like creative process with so many stars on the feature list, writers helping on tracks, and producers cooking up the beats on it. And in addition to features ranging from Drake to Stevie Wonder, AstroWorld also had one of the most elaborate marketing campaigns with the giant Travis Scott heads going all over the world and a ton of other promotional material and events which made everyone and their mother know that this album was coming. I mean, Travis Scott's literal way to market AstroWorld in the summer before it came out was to headline other festivals just to put out that AstroWorld would be coming, and he'd preview Stargazing or preview another track from AstroWorld just to use that as a marketing tool. There was so much thought and so much planning that went into AstroWorld for years, so when you look at it like that, it's really not a surprise that AstroWorld makes it up this high on the list. And looking back at this album, looking at the tour it ended up having, looking at the videos, looking at the moment it was definitely worth every single penny. Now at number 2, this album wasn't so worth it. 50 Cent's Curtis joins the list with an estimated $8 million budget. Now, this was 50 Cent's third studio album, and it did almost sell 700,000 copies in its first week, but in the long run, Curtis kind of flopped. Today, it's mostly known as the album that lost the sales battle to Kanye West's Graduation, and as a musical body of work, Curtis is looked at by far as the weakest out of 50 Cent's first 3 albums, as it really lost the magic of what made his earlier music special, and it marked the turning point where 50 really just went on a straight decline as a rapper. With features like Justin Timberlake, Robin Thicke, Jay-Z, Diddy, and Dr. Dre, it's no doubt why Curtis ended up being so much money to make, and especially as a result of its marketing campaign. I mean, they literally advertised this thing as if it was a boxing match alongside Kanye West's Graduation. Kanye and 50 were going on entire press tours advertising their respective albums, and they were making it such a big event, not just for their own respective third albums, which were completing 2 high-profile and highly acclaimed trilogies, but they were going toe-to-toe with the fate of this marketing campaign being whichever album outsold the other, that either Kanye or 50 would stop making music. Shady and Interscope believed that Curtis would be a gamble worth taking, and its marketing campaign is really a masterclass in how to promote an album. Its high budget definitely did not pay off as much as they would have expected because the album was just not that good. The moral of the story with Curtis is that when you make an album and you design an elaborate campaign for it, you need to make sure that the product on the other end is going to satisfy fans. Otherwise, none of it was worth it. And coming in at number 1 for the most expensive rap album of all time. Hold your chair for this one because you're not ready. I'm telling you, hold on because you're not ready. It's Jay-Z's The Blueprint 2, which had a budget of $10 million. I told you weren't ready. Now, pumping out this record just a year after Jay-Z's first Blueprint album, it made financial and business sense why Rockefeller and Jay wanted to push out another album so quickly after Jay's 2001 classic, but the ambition of this record definitely made it cost $10 million, and it made it not worth it in the long run. While The Blueprint 2 is not a bad album, its 1 hour and 49-minute track list make it a super bloated and frustrating experience that definitely overextended its creative limits. Jay's performance on this project is glued together with big budget production, big name features, and even bigger name samples. From Frank Sinatra to Biggie Smalls, the budget for this project had to cover so many costs, especially at the time of the sample renaissance that was going on in hip-hop at the time, which was started by the soul-cutting sound of Kanye West and Just Blaze, which really made the first Blueprint such a hit. Almost every single song on the Blueprint 2 contains some sort of sample, and with an album that has 25 songs, it's no wonder why this is the most expensive rap album of all time. All in all, Blueprint 2's legacy goes to show that just because you go bigger in terms of track list size, features, and most of all budget, it does not mean that you will make a better album. And if there is anything that this list shows, it's that greatness is not defined by a budget, and you can make a classic album for just about any price tag ranging from free to $10 million. In the mainstream hip-hop world, labels throw these budgets at artists, taking gambles that they will ultimately be able to turn a profit, and as music remains one of the most profitable sectors of the entire entertainment industry, I'm sure that we will see more and more albums get budgets like these in the future. Are you surprised by this list? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. The budgets for these albums are estimated. They are not concrete figures, as this information is not usually disclosed, but analysts have put together loose data over the years that does reflect what the budgets for these albums were. So with that out of the way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It's free. It really does help me out a ton, and if you're at this point in the video, you gotta want to see more content. Thank you for watching so much. It really does mean a lot, and I really do love you. Mr. F, Fantastic Hip Hop, signing out. Have a great day.